Let's start with the Print Factory RIP. There is one central RIP that you can use to drive all of your printing and cutting devices. Print Factory supports over 3,000 devices ranging from AGFA all the way through to TSUNT. Adding printers very straightforward. For today's demo we will show you how we add, build profiles and send jobs to a roll-in printer. Here you can see all the printers and cutters you have available on your license. We will select the roll-in printer, and as you can see each printer will have its own method of connecting to the RIP, via IP USB or folder. This indicates the roll-in is connected via TCP/IP. When you add a printer the drivers are automatically installed by the Print Factory software, so there's no need to install third-party drivers, it's all handled by the RIP itself. With Print Factory you can install all of your printers and cutters into one RIP so you have one central location to manage all of your devices, or you can split across multiple machines for larger installations where you want to load balance across multiple computers. The Print Factory software works right across your network. It's agnostic, it works with Mac, Windows, and Linux operating systems. And you can have multiple installs in any location. This means job prep can be done where you need it to be done. Your people are never tied to working on just one RIP, so you're not creating bottlenecks with last-minute amends. Using a centralized RIP moves the tools away from fixed printing stations and gives your team the freedom to work wherever they want to, on-site, or not. It also gives you unprecedented visibility of the entire workflow. This means that you will have feedback from your printers, so the roll widths that are loaded onto the printer, and ink information so you can instantly see the ink levels. You can see exactly what load is being placed on your system, to the memory and hard drive, and this will help you to load balance across multiple machines. You can manage and change the materials directly from the control panel. Most printers will feedback this information automatically, so those printers send the information about the roll size and what type of roll is loaded onto the printer will be automatically fed back to the Print Factory RIP. You can very easily see all of the jobs that have been processed through the RIP, either collectively for all of your printers and cutters, or for the individual printers and cutters. You can see the job name that's been processed, which printer or cutter it has gone to, the media that was selected for this particular print job, when it was produced, whether it's a print file or a cut file, and also whether the job has been color certified. Ripping is what we call the processing, so this is where the file is ripped before printing and then finally printed. Instantly you can see how many pages were requested and how many pages were printed. On the far right side you have a preview of the job that's been printed, so you can instantly see what has been ripped from the RIP. You can easily restart the job from the RIP, or rip a job again. In the job, you can check the job information, so you can see who submitted the job, when they submitted it, which material was used, and which color profile was used for this particular job. If there were any spot colors inside the job, you will get a full report of any cut contours, and spot colors that were used within this job. You can check how your job will appear on the page, how much material has been used, and how much material is being wasted. You can also do on-the-fly color corrections, so if the job is slightly too dark or too light, or the color balance is slightly off what the customer is expecting, you can very easily adjust it, without having to go back to the original artwork. Finally, you can easily see how many copies were requested, and how many were completed. You have quick access to the most common functions within the Print Factory workflow, like adding new job, and starting a job. You can launch Print Factory's Calibration Software. This is where you manage all of your print profiles. And Print Factory's editor, for any edits to files, or last-minute corrections. Before you can send a job to your printer, you will need to build a profile. This is done through Print Factory Calibrator. Calibrator can be launched directly from the RIP or it can be launched from the desktop. Print Factory Calibrator provides one solution to manage the profiles and all the color information for all of your devices in one central location. You can see the profiles that you have loaded. These are called Pmm Profiles, which simply stands for printer, media, and mode. You have the option to import and export existing profiles. This is perfect for customers that do not have a measuring device, but want to be able to print with existing profiles. You will find profiles that have been built by the dealer or by someone else here. With some printers such as the Epsons and the HPs, you can work with existing profiles on those printers, which makes setup and printing very quick and simple. If you want more control, we provide all of the tools within Print Factory Calibrator, so you are free to build your own profiles with ease. Measuring devices that are supported for building profiles include the full range of Barbieri devices, all of the common X-Rite devices, and the built-in spectras for the Epson and HP printers. Once you've selected the measuring device that you plan to use to build profiles, and you've connected to it, you'll have all the usual settings you'd expect from that device. These will change depending on the measuring device used, and what kind of options are available. For this example, I'm going to use the X-Rite i1 Pro 2. You can change the patch size if needed, and the measuring conditions, to match the standard that you're looking to print to. The most common standard in large format would be M2, which is a UV measurement. Building a profile is very straightforward for both those that have experience and even those who are new to profiling. Print Factory's wizard walks you through the whole process. The wizard can be launched from its own icon here. Once the wizard launches, you select the printer that you want to profile. For this demonstration, I'm going to profile the Roland LEC2. You also have the option to cut down your sheets. This is great if you're profiling a Foamex board or a thick material. You can send that test chart to be cut on the cutting device. At the start of the process, depending on the driver, you will have access to all of the different resolutions supported by that printer, plus all of the possible ink combinations supplied by that manufacturer. In this case, I'm going to profile using CMYK, primer, gloss and white, which is a common configuration for this machine. For those printers that support layered printing such as the Roland, you have full control over which order you want to do that layering. For example, you might want to use a 16-pass white, followed by 16-pass color, and finally a 16-pass gloss varnish. For those cases where a customer has a non-standard ink set, you have full control in the ink settings to rename these inks and the type of ink, depending on the type of machine or the ink set that's currently in that machine. In this example, if the primer was not a primer and it was a red ink, you can set the ink channel correctly, assign it the correct color for display purposes, and then set what type of ink this is going to be. Whether it's going to be a special ink to be used like the white or varnish, or whether it's going to be a normal ink which will be used as part of the color profile. In this case, I'm going to leave that as a primer. There are 3 steps to building your profile. First, you need to give it a name. So the media name is what would appear here, for example Foamex board. The mode name which would appear here, for example 720 by 720 to define the resolution, plus the ink set that you are working with. At this stage you have the option of pre-limiting the amount of ink for your special colors. This will help you prevent any over-inking of your special colors. You also have the option to linearize your white, if needed. You would simply print and measure the white. This would allow for a smooth transition from 0 up to 100% solid white ink, or you can skip this stage. You also have the option to predetermine the initial ink limit for your special inks, and you can also determine what you want to do with those inks in relation to their profile. For example, you can include a flood white or varnish under your CMYK inks. If you want to have the best control, you could include the varnish ink over the top of your CMYK. You can color manage and account for the effect of the varnish on the final color, and again with the primer. Or you can turn those off, and they won't be included in the measurements, but of course they'll still be used when you want to print. Step 1 is the linearization, and you start by printing a linearization chart to the RIP. That chart automatically goes to the RIP and gives you everything we need to measure with your spectrophotometer. This test chart, plus an over-inking set of patches, will allow you to determine whether you need to consider reducing the amount of ink. For example, if the ink is too wet, or if there is any negative effect from the over-inking on that material. Back to Calibrator, and simply measure with your spectrophotometer. I will import the measurement to speed up the process. Once all of your patches have been measured, you can then see exactly where your inks have reached in the color space. What Print Factory will do here is automatically look for the point that you get your maximum color gamut from your primary inks, magenta, cyan, and yellow. If you were profiling a printer with additional inks such as red, green, or violets, those would also be included. The benefit of this is that the software will automatically calculate the maximum ink needed for maximum color gamut, without laying down too much ink, instantly reducing the amount of ink needed on that printer and material combination, to get the best color reproduction. Next, Calibrator assesses the total values from 0 up to 100. And then applies a compensation curve, to ensure you have a smooth transition, from 0 all the way up to 100. Or where a defined link limit is determined by the software, and that's done automatically for each of your colors. Step 2. Now you need to determine the total ink limit needed for maximum color gamut, when you start combining your colors on top of each other. So when you mix your cyan, magenta, yellow and black together, you send a simple test chart to the printer, to test this job, and it will then provide you everything you need to determine the maximum ink weight needed for this printer, and material combination. So you have some tints, both linear and radial, to check the smoothness of your gradations and your linearization. You can also see some two-color overprints to ensure you're not laying down too much ink when you start combining inks. And then you have a very simple, easy to understand chart that allows you to set the total ink limit for your materials. Once that's been determined, you can go back and set a final ink limit for this material. The third and final step. You need to print a test chart in combination with the linearization that you did in the previous step. Depending on the number of colors that you are working with, this chart is automatically and dynamically created for your ink set. So this is just a CMYK chart because you have just CMYK inks in this printer. If you had extended inks, such as red, green, or blue, they would also be automatically included in this test chart to build your color profile that you would measure. In this case, I'm just going to import the data from an existing measurement. Once you have measured the vis you target, click Next. At this stage you have the option of printing an evaluation chart directly to the printer. This information will tell you how close you're able to hit the ISO standard with this material and ink combination. This test chart will give you everything you need to evaluate the quality of your profile. This test chart includes gradations again, to reaffirm that your linearization is nice and smooth, from 0 to 100. That your skin tones are good. Your gray balance is good. Your shadow detail is still open. You have a wide range of CMYK and RGB images to assess the quality of your profile, plus there are some additional spot colors to show how well you can match a range of spot colors. Click Next, Finish, and then your profile is complete. And now you're ready to print, with the best profile. Print Factory Calibrator has some additional tools to speed up your production, like recalibration of an existing profile. This is very similar to building a profile, except you skip the stage where you need to determine the ink limits under linearization. You print one test chart to evaluate the color shift from when you originally profiled the printer. And then Calibrator makes a compensation to bring your printer back to the golden state. This gives you the benefit of being able to print the same color consistently, over any period of time. Whether it's 1 week, 1 year, 5 years. It also allows you to match one printer to another printer, so if you have more than one Roland LEC2, you can get those two printers matching each other identically, or very very close to each other. Calibrator also has additional tools for fixing gray balance. If you have any gray balance issues because of the lighting that you're viewing your final print under, this is a very simple tool to adjust the gray balance. So you include a gray image to make some assessments under. You print an evaluation chart, which then create different versions of your profile, going in different color directions from yellow to red, to blue, magenta, cyan and so on. You can then put those test charts under your lighting conditions, and then choose the test chart or the image that gives you the best gray balance in those lighting conditions. So it's a very simple tool for making adjustments because of the lighting conditions to ensure you have neutral gray balance. You are then presented with the option to determine which direction you want to push the gray balance, to ensure it is neutral under your lighting conditions. Your profile has been increased with the red you selected, to fix your gray balance for your lighting conditions. There are several variants within Print Factory for controlling color. From the more conventional perceptual and colorimetric rendering intense, and proofing for customers who want to use an Epson or HP for contract proofing. Print Factory's Visual Match is our own gamut mapping technology that allows you create a consistent color across multiple machines, regardless of the inks and substrate, and giving you a common color appearance across different brands of printers. We also include Ecosave, which is our proprietary ink saving technology, to reduce the amount of ink needed to produce your job, with no loss in quality or color reproduction, and an average ink saving of between 10 to 15%. All of these tools are integrated in the single license, with no extra modules required. You can also manage spot colors within the PMM. In Calibrator you can work with customers' existing measurement data. Print Factory also supplies the standard reference spot colors including all of the Pantone libraries. You can load the Pantone solid-coded library directly into Calibrator, and it includes all of the Pantone colors. Once the library's been imported, you can see the reference lab values for each of those colors. You can instantly see how close you can match those colors with the delta E report beside each color. So anything that is 0 means it's within the color gamut of this particular printer and material combination. As the delta E number increases, the variation between the target and what you can actually achieve is increased. So you can instantly see which colors can be matched and which colors may not match perfectly. The CMYK mix is automatically calculated by our software to give the best rendition of that spot color on your printer and material combined. Print Factory also includes the tools you need to tune your spot colors. So if you want to achieve a slightly different visual appearance of a spot color, you have a tool that will allow you to tune that spot color. It is very simple to use. In the center is your current rendition of that spot color, and then around the edge you will get slight variations of that spot color. Moving in slightly different directions, this yellow will go slightly blue, or slightly redder, or slightly more yellow. Once this is printed, your customer can easily pick the color they prefer, so no need for you to go in and tune by numbers. Your customer can visually pick the color that gives them the closest rendition to the color they're looking to achieve. Print Factory's integrated editor includes all the tools you need for doing basic creation of artwork, and editing of files that are not completely print ready. Editor has a similar user interface as the Adobe Creative Suite, but it also includes all the tools needed for finishing, like creating cut contours, generating a white layer, adding grommets or eyelets, tiling and bleed. From Editor you can select your printer, your profile, and the variant you want to use. Like Ecosave if you want to save ink without losing quality. File formats include TIFF, JPEG, native Adobe Creative Suite files and of course PDF. Files that are layered will remain layered once opened inside Editor, so you can edit individual layers and objects, independent of each other, and you can see exactly what's on each of those layers. In this example you can see, we have a print layer which is our artwork, and we also include a creasing layer in the file for creasing, and the cut layer to provide the final cut information, to cut out the point of sale item displayed on your screen. On the right you can instantly see what color space your file is in, and what the color values are in any particular area of your artwork. Editor also includes a pre-flight check within the software, so when you open up the file it will pre-flight and ensure that your file is good for printing. Any issues will be highlighted, and you can use the tools in Editor to fix those quickly. As you can see in this example you have two cut layers called cutting and creasing. If you select a cutting device, then you can map those tools to the actual cutting tool that exists on your cutter. These tools will be different depending on the manufacturer and the model of the cutter, so even if the channel name is incorrect in the file, you can very easily map those to the actual cutting tool that your device is expecting. You can also change the color for preview so you can see it clearer on screen. And the same with your creasing layer. Print Factory's integrated editor includes tools for doing on-the-fly color correction, similar to Photoshop, for adjusting hue, saturation, brightness and color balance. You can also individually adjust vector objects if the color is incorrect. In the example, you can adjust this blue to be closer to the blue in the top of the artwork. You can simply adjust those values with CMYK sliders. Or you can even take a Pantone color if it was supposed to be a Pantone reference. You just drag it onto your artwork, it's that easy. You can easily generate a flood white under this artwork. Editor has a simple tool for generating white layers if they do not already exist in the file. In this example, I will show you how to create a flood white under your entire artwork. You can then assign that to any of your special inks in your profile. This will then automatically generate a white layer directly in your artwork with Editor. Once you're ready to submit the job to the printer, it will automatically launch the layout tool. Print Factory's layout tool gives you everything you need to set up your final print. In layout, you can add additional jobs if you want to into the artwork, and you can adjust the alignment and nesting. Layout has the tools you need to do step and repeat. In the example, you can add 3 across and 3 down with a 1-inch gap in between. It will automatically then lay out your job for the maximum usage of your material. You can edit your layout if you want to. You can move it around easily. You can adjust the size of your spaces. Then you can re-nest, and again it will make the best use of the material, so even if it means rotating your artwork, to ensure minimum wastage. Now you're ready to print. You submit the job to the RIP, where we process the artwork for the printer. At the ripping stage, Print Factory is applying the color management, plus all of the instructions that have come from Editor and Layout, so it's generating the right cut layers, to the right cutting tool, to send to your cutter. While your job rips, you can continue with other jobs. Print Factory can rip and print multiple jobs simultaneously. Once the job has been ripped, you can simply release it to the printer. You can also inspect the job. Here you can see the final values that will be going to the printer. This includes your flood white, no primer, no varnish, plus the CMYK values. You can turn channels on and off if you want to see specific channels. Here you also have some tools for taking measurements. If you wanted to double check the measurements of your final print file. As well as the print file, on your cutter you can see some relevant information. You can inspect that job. And you can see your creasing layer has been assigned to the correct tool for your cutter, in this case it's a Kongsberg. You have the registration marks needed to operate the Kongsberg cutter. You also have the ability to simulate cutting, so you can make sure that the cutting is going to be correct. The green is the crease layer and magenta is the cutting layer. You can log into your own Print Factory Cloud account to access many more features. Here you can create support tickets. Download the latest version of the software. Find the answers to some frequently asked questions. This takes you to the help.printfactory.cloud help site. Here you will find every resource you need to print better, including how-to videos, FAQs, and individual topics for the 4 main applications: layout, editor, calibrator, and RIP. With lots of useful tutorials on every topic. You can also watch short how-to videos. You can find advanced tracking and job label information here. We have many production and reporting features available inside the Cloud app, with a printer dashboard to see the status of your printers. You can also view your print jobs here, and resubmit to the RIP from a remote location. Inside the print job you will see all of the relevant information pertaining to that job, and you can also see ink consumption, and media consumption information. You can also access help topics and videos from inside any of the tools, for example inside editor or layout, without having to leave your job.